The story I'm going to tell you today will be about 24-year-old Brianna Kupfer, a young, beautiful, determined girl whose life was tragically cut short, literally in broad daylight. This is the Defunct City channel. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to click on the bell not to miss new episodes and stay informed. Brianna Nicole Kupfer grew up in Pacific Palisades. It is an upscale residential neighborhood nestled between the Santa Monica Mountains and the Pacific Ocean. She lived there with her parents, younger sister, and two brothers until she graduated high school. After receiving a high school education, Brianna attended the University of Miami, where she earned a bachelor's degree in public relations. Back in Los Angeles, after receiving her degree, Brianna began studying interior design at UCLA. The girl had big plans for her life, which, alas, were not destined to come true. Brianna worked as a design consultant for a high-end furniture store near the Hollywood Hills. Quiet work in the prestigious Los Angeles area, which she combined with her studies and where she worked for about a year. On Thursday, January 13, 2022, Brianna was scheduled to work a part-day, after which she was scheduled to fly from Los Angeles to New York, where she was invited to a friend's birthday party. On that day, by an unfortunate coincidence, Brianna was the only part-time employee at the store. At about 1:30 in the afternoon, she texted a friend who also lived in Los Angeles, saying that someone had entered the store who, by his mere presence, made her uncomfortable and caused her concern. But unfortunately, the friend to whom she wrote the message saw it too late. Just 15 minutes after she sent the message, a customer came into the store and discovered the girl's lifeless body lying on the floor. 10 minutes after the 911 call, the store was cordoned off by police. Somebody had brutally murdered Brianna, and now the police were to find out who had so brazenly dared to do such a thing in broad daylight. According to the coroner's report, Brianna had been stabbed 46 times with a sharp object. Her injuries included 11 stab wounds to the chest, 2 to the abdomen, 1 to the pelvis, and 7 to the arms. The wounds were deep, and there was virtually no chance for the girl to survive. Her death was a heavy blow to her family and friends, who were devastated to learn what had happened. No one could understand who and why had massacred Brianna so brutally. Who could have come into a store in broad daylight in an upscale neighborhood of the city and massacred her so easily? By the time the police arrived at the store, the perpetrator was gone. Detectives began interviewing people working near the furniture store in the hope that someone might have seen or heard something that would help lead to the perpetrator. The motive for what was done remained unclear. Nothing was missing from the store, and according to friends of Brianna's family, she had no conflicts with anyone. She was a friendly, sociable person, able to find common ground with everyone. Nowadays, to do something like that in a big city like Los Angeles and go unnoticed is almost impossible. If you don't get noticed, or other people don't pay attention to you, there's no hiding from the security cameras located at every turn. The day after the incident, the police released a surveillance tape which they believed showed the man involved in the massacre of Brianna. He was wearing dark clothing, a backpack on his back, and a white mask and sunglasses concealed his face. The footage was taken near a furniture store, and the time the man was caught on the camera lens matched the time the crime was committed. A reward of $250,000 was offered for information leading to the arrest of the suspect. This was the largest bounty offered by the state of California in recent times. Police found camera footage that allowed a closer look at the suspect. The dark-skinned man walked into the supermarket, located in the same neighborhood as the furniture store, about a half hour after the massacre of Brianna. The girl's death caused a great deal of public outcry. Brianna's father criticized government officials who, in his opinion, had forgotten about the people and thought that the key to getting elected was to support the lower classes and give them rights. Brianna's father had a point. 1 week after the girl's death, on January 19, 2022, the police announced that the suspect had been identified and arrested at a bus stop in Pasadena. He offered no resistance to arrest. The detainee turned out to be 31-year-old Sean Laval Smith, whose record raises only one major question: why is this subject at large? Here, for example, is just a portion of his biography. Prior to the attack on Brianna, Smith had been wanted on 14 active warrants for the theft of a bicycle in Charlotte, North Carolina. In 2019, in Charleston, South Carolina, he was arrested for firing a flare gun at a car carrying a man and child. $50,000 in bail, somehow paid by Smith, allowed him to be among the people again. One of the conditions of his bail was that he not be allowed to leave the state. But inhibitions apparently weren't for him. He went to California. In all, he was arrested at least 11 times in South Carolina. Just 1 year before the Brianna massacre, Smith was accused of assaulting a police officer who arrested him for defacing another man's car. When the officers placed Smith in their car, he threatened to kill one of the officers and bit his finger, for which he was later charged with assault on an officer. For this he was sentenced to 8 months in prison, after which he was to be on probation for 2 more years. 133 days later he was released from prison. But when he twice failed to report to his probation officer, his probation was revoked and a judge issued a warrant for his arrest. It remains unclear, however, and is now being investigated, why, after his arrest for assaulting a police officer, Smith was not recalled to South Carolina, and to the fact that he had violated a bail condition. Thus, at the time of Brianna Kupfer's death, there was a valid warrant for Smith's arrest, issued in November 2021 for violating the terms of his probation in a resisting arrest case. But, unfortunately, the officers of the law could not find him in time to isolate him. In January of the year 2022, he walked into the furniture store where Brianna worked. They had absolutely nothing to do and did not know each other. The girl was just unlucky enough to be in Smith's way. Certainly played a role in the fact that Brianna was alone in the store. As the investigation revealed, the furniture store was not the first place Smith had gone that day in the neighborhood. The owner of the chiropractic shop next door to Croft House told CBS Los Angeles that the suspect entered her business shortly before the murder. He came in and asked a couple of questions. "Do you do orthopedics here? What kind of care do we provide?" And then he left, Dr. Jennifer Botello said. So he was only here for a few minutes. Dr. Botello said she recently beefed up security measures because several customers came into her store and made her feel uncomfortable. "It's horrible," Botello said of Brianna Kupfer's murder. "It's terrible. She's such a young girl. We feel terrible for Brianna's family and hope we can catch this guy." Except that everywhere he had gone before, there were several employees and customers, which apparently forced him to leave right away. The furniture store was the only place where Brianna worked alone. The fact that she was alone that day was also an exception to the rule. Usually there were several people working in the store, but on this day, by some evil coincidence, everything worked out in a way that ended up in the death of an innocent man. On the 22nd of January, 2022, Smith was formally charged in the Brianna Kupfer case. The judge set his bail at $2 million to make sure he stayed behind bars until the case was heard. Smith's arrest came within 1 week of another alleged attack by a homeless man that led to the death of a 70-year-old Los Angeles nurse. The two attacks came amid criticism of LA District Attorney George Gaskin's lenient approach to prosecution, which some say led to dangerous criminals walking free because the charges they faced were not strong enough. Smith was considered homeless, but after his arrest, his aunt showed up, saying he was suffering from mental health problems. "I don't know his diagnosis, but he was a good boy," she said. Smith is currently undergoing a mental health evaluation to determine if he can stand trial. What motivated the massacre of the innocent girl remains unclear. We can only hope that even if he is found to be insane, he will still be isolated from society for a long time, maybe even forever. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.